Okay, evening everybody. Hope you can all hear me. Not sure why that screen's not gone across, so let's just do it the good old-fashioned way. There we go. Yeah, so hello everybody. Hope you can all hear me. Hope you're all doing well, and hope you're having a good Tuesday afternoon. Apologies for the ever so slight late start. It's kind of silly season with Christmas parties and all that stuff, as you can imagine. And so I'm home alone, just making sure the kids are actually in bed and asleep, not running down. So, what are we going to look at today? Hey there, guys. Hey, Stuart, Reese, Chris, and Adam. How are we all doing? Glad you can hear me loud and clear. That saves me having to ask that question later on. Yeah, so we've got quite a bit to get through again today. I was dreading it. I created my thumbnail on Sunday thinking, no, the Bitcoin price has crashed. And then we had that rally yesterday. But it does seem like the market has stalled in that upwards climb, and we've continued, certainly for the majority of altcoins and Bitcoin, to continue sliding down. How far we're going to go, we'll have to just check that out later on in the call. Got some news, got plenty of questions to have a look at as well. So I think without any further ado, we'll just dive straight in. So what can we see on the usual chart here? Let me just bring that up. There we go. Now I can see the chat box a bit clearer. Okay. So as I said, that move, let's try and zoom this in a little bit closer, shall we? We had the move on Sunday. I mean, we were kind of sliding down sort of the, Friday and then over the weekend. And then yesterday, I thought, here we go, engulfing candle, taking out pretty much all of the falling that we'd had Saturday-ish, definitely Sunday. And actually yesterday, what was even more, not astounding, but potentially surprising, was if we break this down to like the 12-hour, you'll actually see that we continue to slide all the way down to 40,000. And then we had just this rocket candle back up. But actually, we then started to close the early part of today with a bit of a high test on the 12-hour. And we've seen actually since lunchtime, certainly UK time, that the price has started to continue on its way back down following a rejection. So, of course, later on, we're going to dive into how things are looking and where that's gone. The dollar, I mean, it's still in a downtrend. It's still trending downwards, although the last few days it has kind of stalled at that 102 level. We were talking last week about maybe getting to the... I have to blow this one up because that's where my camera is, isn't it? Not that one. Yeah, so it's kind of stalled here. We were talking about getting back down to the 100, maybe the 101 level before it turning around. It's done that in the past. That's really the major level. If we take a look at that on sort of the weekly, there we go. Just this area around about here. I know we dipped through it, but we recovered that very quickly. But that's kind of the area that I'm looking for it to catch a bounce. If it doesn't, it slides back down. And I think the dollar's got a lot further to fall, just because that run up in 2021, 2022 was pretty parabolic. Okay, let's close that one down. Ethereum. Oh, I'm on the weekly now. Let's get back to the daily. Casper. Ethereum, yeah, I mean, we've talked about a bit of a nothing burger. I mean, the only thing I'd say about Ethereum at the moment is it's actually resting on the high from the 8th of November. So it's come back down. It's already retested that. So you could argue that potentially it's slightly ahead of where Bitcoin is. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to bounce first. If anything, my opinion would be that if Bitcoin continues to fall, I think this is going to fall further. Hey there, Mo. And then we've had Casper as well. Casper's been... and we'll look at this in a bit more detail, but when we do, you'll see that it's basically just been below the 50 for a few days now. It started to trend down, and although yesterday did have a look at a fairly decent low test, maybe a recovery, you'll actually see that it's still closed below the 50 EMA on the daily, and that now looks like my computer's updating, and that's now turned into a nice high test and potentially some further falling. So mixed message over the last 2 days, but the general trend seems to be that it's heading downwards. If we just quickly have a look at CoinMarketCap, not to go through the coins, but just to actually have a look at where things are on the 24-hour chart. And actually, that's it's 24 hours from now. So yesterday was still green, this time 24 hours ago. We can kind of see, well, there's this actually giving you a bit of a mixed signal, to be fair, because everything's looking relatively green, when in fact we actually know that if you'd done from midnight, so 18, 20 hours ago, we'd be looking at things much redder. So we'll just bin that one off for now. And what we'll do is we'll move into the news. there's only a couple of news articles today. One that I'm not really going to go through, but certainly caught my eye, and that's FTX. FTX is actually now planning to file for reorganization to end its bankruptcy in the hopes that it can reopen as an exchange. Now, this isn't actually groundbreaking news because they said they were going to do this back in October, and they kind of suggested they'd be looking at sometime in December. But actually, this is where it is and where it's going towards. And I suppose for me, the question is this would need a thorough rebranding and a complete marketing overhaul, in my opinion, because surely the name itself, FTX, has been totally trashed. It's still got significant ties with SBF, who we know has already been found guilty on his first trial, second trial the early part of next year. And I'm not too sure where the real end game for this is. Now, we know that it was second or third largest exchange, so they've got a hell of a lot of users that were tied into it. But most of those users are not going to get 100% of their assets out of this. So I kind of feel like this is just a hiding to nothing. But that being said, I'm sure these solicitors know what they're doing. They are rocking up, unbelievably, $1 million a day in legal fees. That's $53,000 an hour. So maybe they're just wanting to claim some more fees. Who knows? But certainly the solicitors, the lawyers are winning in this bankruptcy case. So there's not really too much more to go through there, but it certainly caught my eye. I never used FTX, but I will not be using FTX when it comes back. I don't care if they fully overhaul themselves, totally rebrand into something else. I'm quite happy with the exchanges I have. So even if it's just my stubbornness of I just don't want to use them because of what happened in 2022, well, I'm sure I'll get around some other way. And then we go to BlackRock and ETFs because, well, it's been 6 days since we did a news, so obviously something's going to have changed. But the article that I'm going to go through here is perhaps one of the biggest signs that the SEC are actually serious about these because it's not just BlackRock, these ETF applications. And we talked about last week that BlackRock over the last 3-4 weeks have met with the SEC on numerous occasions and have been revising and rewriting their submission, along with the likes of ARK and Wisdom Tree. And yesterday they submitted a latest amendment, which was for the I'll read through the article because they'll explain it better than me. But major applications for the spot Bitcoin ETF in the United States are amending their filings to comply with the cash redemption model demanded by the securities regulators. So last week, the news article was in the latest revision and the latest discussions that BlackRock and the ETF and the SEC were having was the SEC weren't happy with it effectively being an in-kind payment, a Bitcoin access only payment. And so SEC had made original amendments to say, well, we would also offer a cash option for the big banks, a cash option, which I then said would be really helpful for the likes of Goldman Sachs and the other big banks there. Well, it looks like the SEC have continued to dig their feet in because they're not happy with that. They don't want half and half. They want it all, the entire model, to be a cash redemption model. So that means that you can't use BTC as a payment mechanism. It has to all be within cash. And it seems that actually the SEC have been very stubborn about this. But I actually think this is a net positive, really. I don't really care how the ETFs are purchased, whether it's cash or BTC, doesn't necessarily bother me. But I just like the fact that the SEC are having this open dialogue. They're being very clear and transparent in what could have been another easy out for them to ultimately reject these ETFs going forward. So this potentially is a very positive sign that in the near future, and I don't want to say the 10th of January because it could well be March, but in the near future, we might actually see these ETFs or some of these ETFs be approved, because it does seem that for once, and the SEC are not being particularly forward with us retail, but why would they on this instance? But they are making time for significant amount of meetings with the applicants and then giving them the necessary information for them to amend their applications. And as I said, they had put forward this sort of 50-50 model, but the SEC have been clear, said, no, that's not enough, guys. You need to actually do something a bit better, a bit more. And so in the end, it looks like they've all just abandoned what they were looking for, and they've gone down the full cash route. There is a slight twist to that, which we'll get to in a moment. But investment managers, so second paragraph down now, BlackRock and Cathie Wood's ARK Invest have updated their S1 registration statements for the spot Bitcoin ETFs with the SEC. So filed on the 18th, which was yesterday, the S1 amendment relates to the cash creation and redemption model for proposed spot Bitcoin ETFs, with BlackRock and ARK accepting the cash redemption system rather than the in-kind redemption, which basically implied the non-monetary payments like BTC, which we discussed last week. ARK's registration statement hinted that the ARK 21 share Bitcoin ETF would only allow cash creation redemptions. The document mentioned potential in-kind creation and redemptions of shares, stating that the ETF may also permit authorized participants to create and redeem shares via in-kind transactions subject to regulatory approval. And BlackRock's effectively done the same. So what they've kind of done is said, we're going to solely focus on this cash redemption model. However, we'd like to at least have a further dialogue later on and an open avenue for potential cryptocurrency payments, this in-kind redemptions as they're called, but only if you approve that. So if the SEC approves that. So that's kind of like just, they still want to have another bite of that, but at the moment they're quite happy if we're going to get this thing moving forward to just stick with the cash and then have that over there. So again, another positive step to see that actually these applicants are also, not trying to die on a rock over in-kind payments. They're having to understand the stubbornness that the SEC have and go, right, well, if we really want these, this is the route we've got to go. So yeah, I think that is perfect. And a couple of analysts have gone, so if they surrender, that tells you the SEC are not budging. The debate is over, which is probably good if you're looking for a January approval, the analyst wrote. And the other thing that I would just add, and this is just me speculating here, but we're kind of like the week before Christmas at the moment. So they need to get these applications in. If they are truly thinking first week in January, first week, working week back, they're going to get approval, then this is the last opportunity for them to get it in. So again, that hive of activity that we're seeing could be a precursor into at least the applicants thinking that they've got a good chance for the ETF. What I will say is there's a couple of other questions in the Avenger chat later on about ETFs and what that means. So I won't go over everything now, but it was certainly an interesting news article to just see where it's coming from. It goes into a bit more detail about what Wisdom Tree are doing and how this is going to work, but I don't think you necessarily need to know all of that. Okay, let's just move this out of the way. There's two other news articles that I'm going to cover in the Avenger questions. But I think what we'll do first off is, let's just crack through the Avenger questions. Hopefully it won't take too long. If you do have any other questions outside of that, as always, guys, just drop them in the chat and we will go from there. But I'll bring these ones up if I can find them. Here we go. Okay, Chris, let's just answer your question number 2 first, which is on BTC ETFs, and then we'll go back to your first one on Doge. A lot of expectation of a BTC ETF in the coming weeks, likely to be all confirmed at the same time, then likely massive overnight media campaigns. This would surely increase retail awareness as well as Wall Street interest, etc. If ETF providers are making, say, 1% on the ETF investments, plus benefiting from an influx of new capital coming into their new ETFs, then surely BlackRock et al. Will be maintaining the publicity, marketing, and sales team for the new ETF over the coming years. I'm not sure there's a question in this yet, but okay. Would you be looking to sell more of your alts into BTC over the festive period to benefit from this? Okay, well, just to answer into that question, no. I've actually got a fairly decent BTC bag at the moment, if I'm honest. So I've said this several times, but I've been buying Bitcoin on the first of the month probably the last 24 months, plus as I've done that through my business and then plus the personal stuff that I bought. So if I was to merge those two together, I'd say I'd probably have 50, if not over 50% of my portfolio in BTC. So I feel very comfortable with where that sits at the moment. So I'd rather not convert the alts. Now, whether or not I decide to buy more BTC, over the festive period, I don't know. I do still have a bit of dry powder that I've just not been able to get in. And so, yeah, there's a potential there. But for me, and we'll see when I go through the analysis a bit later on, I am looking for a better price of BTC. So, you know, I think I'd rather wait and see whether or not that happens. But just to go back to your statement, not really a question, about then, yeah, we've actually already seen, I can't remember who did it. Just let me have a look if I can find it. Bijan posted it in the group as well, but I did notice it. There was an ETF, a Bitcoin ETF advert that came out. Yes, I think it was Bitwise that did it. ETF advert. Let's have a look. I'm not going to play it, but I'm pretty sure it was them. Here's the news article. I'll just bring it over. So yeah, Bitwise reveals Bitcoin ETF advert signaling mainstream transition. And so I've actually not watched the advert, but the fact is we are now starting to see these adverts are being created. And yeah, maybe that is a sign that the ETFs are on the way, that they're actually already thinking about the marketing side of things. But this is already out, you know. So yes, they're going to be trying to garner up interest. And I do think, you know, when this Bitcoin, and it is a when, Bitcoin spot ETF is approved, I think that will hit mainstream media, you know, regardless of it be financial news and you know, as dodgy crypto people that have to hide in the shadows and all of that. I think, you know, it's going to be enough that will sort of flash on the 10 o'clock news or whatever it's going to be. And then, yeah, that may garner some more interest. Obviously, this is something that, you know, the likes of BlackRock will be selling. So they are going to continue to market it. Yeah, they're not exactly just going to try and ride off a 3-month sort of wave of hype around it. This is something that they will continuously try to sell once it's open. So they will look to market it. Now, whether or not that affects us, you know, I'm not an institutional client, so I don't really see adverts for any other ETFs, but we can sure bet that it's going to. And I just think that if it is successful, that's just going to garner more interest. And yeah, retail will come in. So absolutely. I think that is the case. Let's have a look. Okay, Doge. So thoughts on Doge 1 mission by SpaceX in the coming weeks. Could Elon use this opportunity to tweet Dogecoin to the moon or there and thereabouts and avoid criticism from the SEC in the meantime? Is it worth holding some Dogecoin? Okay, so for those of you that aren't aware, there is a scheduled launch in January of next year to launch effectively a small lightweight satellite called the Doge 1, which is like an advertisement board. I'll bring up an article on it in a second. An advertisement board that's going to sort of fly around the moon, if you will. Why is it called Doge 1? Well, it's actually been completely funded through the purchase and sale of Dogecoin. So this will be the first of its kind. It was actually announced back in 2021, and it's been repeatedly delayed. Now, we are getting quite close to the crunch time, so I'm presuming that, you know, barring a weather or some catastrophic incident, that this launch window is when it will launch. Could Elon use this? You bet he is going to. You bet that Dogecoin will get a significant amount of coverage on the day of the launch. You look at any of the SpaceX launches, you know, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people watch those, which is, you know, I mean, shuttle launches were very popular. Rocket launches back in the early days were very popular. General rocket launches to take satellites into space, not so interesting, but for some reason, they're very popular, certainly on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I think he will take the opportunity to do that. Whether or not it avoids criticism from the SEC, I don't know. Now, we've talked about this in the past. 13th of January is when it's due to launch. You can actually just go on Wikipedia or any of these articles, and you can kind of see the history about it all. There's one here. I'll tell you what, I will just save. I'll open this. I'll save this so I can add it to Discord later on. But if you remember back in April, we did an Avenger call on Elon and his ability to influence the price of cryptocurrencies. And sadly, very sadly, when we pruned a lot of the threads in the Discord channel, I lost the actual screenshot of what I'd done here. But what I'd effectively done is I'd gone through a lot of Elon's tweets around cryptocurrency and Doge. I'd done it with Bitcoin and Dogecoin. But this is the only screenshot I've got left of it, sadly, because I didn't keep a copy. But you can kind of see, even from this, let's just blow this up because my face might be in the way. Bottom left, you might not be able to see so well. But you can kind of see to start off with, when Elon tweets about something, it moves. But actually, what we talked about is that movement, that ability to move the price of Doge, has shrunk quite a bit over time. That's probably one of two factors. One, a lot of absolute Elon moon boys already hold Doge and they continue to. Two, so they've already got theirs. Two, the price, is all, when he first did this, we were talking about 3 decimal places. Now we're only in 2 decimal places. Sometimes we're only in 1 decimal place. And so you just got that whole effect of how much he can move it. So yeah, do have a look if you are interested in going over that section, because I don't have the screenshots anymore. It's from minute 57 from the call on the 4th of April. But within that, we talked about this, and this is how it's open on the wrong screen. This is how much of an effect he certainly had. Is people have written academic papers on how Elon Musk's Twitter activity can move crypto prices. Now, I went through these during that call, but this isn't like a short paper. This is quite a bit. This takes in the times and the effects. It's pretty detailed into what it is. And generally the conclusion at the time of writing was he does have a significant ability to move the price. This is they look at it from negative and non-negative tweets, and you can kind of see the table where those are. Those 2 papers are actually written. This is the second one. I had to ask a university professor friend to download these for me, which they very kindly did. I've got to be honest, I didn't read them all. But the point I suppose I'm trying to make is that this is the kind of caliber that he had, that it was worthy of writing. But at the same time, people now expect it. And so going back to whether or not you should hold a bag of Doge, I think it's always kind of worthwhile if you're someone that is on Twitter quite a lot, just wants out to make money, not necessarily bothered about anything. Holding a little bag of Doge is not necessarily a bad idea, because if he does tweet about it and it rises up 40-50% and you can get out quickly, and just it's not something that you're going to be worried about, you just want to make a quick 50% on whatever you put in, doesn't matter if it continues to climb, then I think there's opportunity. But let's just counter that with, what happens if the rocket explodes? Does Dogecoin 1 rocket explodes? Is that going to have a negative impact on the price? So don't think it's a slam dunk that this could be it. What is interesting is at the time I did this video, Dogecoin was at 9 cents. And where are we now? We're at 9 cents. So we've done nothing. In fact, it just continues to drop since then. But we're back to that price now. In terms of where we are within the price, I mean, let's just ignore the fact that Bitcoin may roll over a little bit later on. We've already talked about we're revisiting levels that we previously in the year, but we really are about to sit on pretty thick level of it's sort of support and resistance, which needs to get through. But I wouldn't actually be surprised. I mean, you could take that all the way back to these tops here in February 21. So if it does drop through here, for me, it's right down to the bottom of this channel again, where we've seen it sort of rise and fall throughout the entire year. It's around about 5.5 cents. So that's sort of the risk to reward play. Is when's the launch? 13th, isn't it? So let's just find that date. There we go. That's Saturday the 13th of January there. So what's going to happen between now and then? Maybe it tracks back down and then we get an Elon spike to raise that up. Or Bitcoin just continues to fall. It brings Dogecoin down with it. And then by the time we get it, it doesn't even, in my opinion, need an Elon tweet. This is just an area in which it has reacted very strongly for the last 18 months and bounced. So, if you're someone that wants to get on that bandwagon, you see Doge anywhere from 6 to 5 cents, you want to buy then, because it's proven over the last 18 months to hold that level of strength to it. Now, I have done that in the past and I've done it quite successfully. I don't hold any Doge at the moment. I'm not really interested necessarily in that play, I've got to be honest. But yeah, if it's something you're interested in, Chris, I recommend you try and do it. Jared's asked for thoughts on XRP, both technically and fundamentally. No problem. Well, there is a problem there. Oh, wait, what's this? Oh, sorry, let's just go back to this. There's a quick news article here about the ETFs, just to try and counter. It looks like it's a sure thing, because some market analysts are using the likes of Glassnode, which for us has not been particularly successful, because it's just too restrictive. So it actually suggests that there's very low levels. I was going to say very little. That's not fair. Very low levels of interest in just trading BTC in general at the moment. And historically, that has only happened, or the levels we're at has only happened twice before. And so, you know, if we are only days away or weeks away from an ETF approval, you would think that certainly traders would be getting excited about that. They don't care if the price goes up or down. They just care about the volatility, and they would be looking to play that. But actually, what this is kind of showing at the moment, if you were to read through the article, is there is very little. Now, we've been on a downtrend for several weeks now, so it isn't just because it's suddenly drying up because we're 10 days away from it. There's a image. I think I've got it here. So basically, I just clicked through that article and I got into this sort of summary by James Van Straten. He's done a quick take on it all. So understanding critical metrics provides essential insights into digital asset markets. Okay, one such indicator is the estimated leverage ratio, which offers a glimpse into the market leverage and is noteworthy. Currently, the ELR is near historic lows, an occurrence witnessed only twice prior. This indicates significant reduction in market leverage, implying a conservative approach from traders in the futures market. So they ain't thinking there's a lot, you know, to get particularly excited about or to sucker people in. Now, maybe that's the play. Who knows? Playing possum or whatever it is. But concurrently, the open interest, another pivotal measure, is also approaching year-to-date lows. This is particularly beneficial for Bitcoin, robustly perched at 43K, as the apparent absence of derivatives and leverage signals a healthier and arguably more sustainable market environment. The exchange landscape isn't uniform, however, do a bit. Okay, right. This is what it's saying is, so you can see in, let me just get it right. In the blue is Bitcoin's price. I can't zoom this in any further. The one on the top with the arrows on it is Bitcoin's price. And then we've got the yellow, orange, is the estimated leverage ratio. And what we're saying is that if you can have a look where it was May 21, we had a height, but it touched this lowest thing. It led to a downtrend in the price, generally, and moved down in the price. And then similarly, when it touched down here in January 22, just after the bear market, we saw another further downtrend in the price. Now, we haven't actually touched it yet, but we are almost touching it. So potentially, if this is to repeat itself, maybe there is an opportunity for the price to move down, something we've talked about quite a bit. But on the other side of that, I've got good old Bob. Bob Lucas is someone that I've followed for a long time. He's very level-headed about some stuff. He's kind of saying that the ETF is a near 99.9% deal done. Doesn't really give a time frame for that, but suggests that the deal is done just given the amount of engagement and activity the SEC is having with all of the applicants. So again, this is sort of a follow on from the S1 amendment we talked about prior. But so we're in that situation at the moment where I think people are just using the ETFs quite a lot. I mean, I do. I talk about the ETFs every week, but it seems that I'm just reporting on what people are saying. But people seem to be using it because it is of interest to retail at the moment, us retail at the moment, and so yeah, we see that. But for every argument you see that the ETFs are going to be approved in January, I can find another argument that says that it's going to be delayed or rejected. So we are kind of in that situation where it's 50-50 shootouts, I'm afraid. Right, let's move on to some actual other questions. And the next one was on XRP. So you asked for fundamentals as well as technicals. The problem is I don't really know much fundamentals. I don't really know what XRP is up to at the moment. My last biggest piece of news for XRP is July of this year when they won the case against the SEC. So I'm not probably the best person to ask from a fundamental point of view sort of where things are going. What I will say fundamentally on a macro scale is that XRP is one of the longest altcoins going. It's got an incredible level of support. So for me, it's on a lot of exchanges. It's highly advertised. It's highly known. And it will do well when the bull run returns. Whether or not you're going to see the gains you'll see on some more known or lesser known altcoins, I would suggest not. And if the 2020, of course, I've got one that doesn't have the history back there. Let me try and find XRP Bitstamp. That's got to be the best. I mean, you look at what it did in 2018, that bull run there, it got all the way up to 330. But in the 2021, it didn't even touch $2. So, considering that a lot of other altcoins absolutely exceeded the heights they achieved if they were around in the 2017 bull run, this one actually failed by almost 50%. Now that doesn't mean that it's a bad token or it's not going to get anywhere. I'm just saying that it's got to beat two previous all-time highs from the bull runs to get where it's going to. So for me, it's just not something that I'm particularly interested in investing in. But having a look at it from a technical point of view on a lower time scale, and again, ignoring what potentially might happen with BTC, but I would ignore that at your peril. What I would say is, again, similar to what I talked about in Casper, but we didn't show on the charts. We've spent 3 days below the 50 EMA on the daily at the moment. It's starting to consolidate below that, and it had been attacking it for the best part of a month. There are some recoverable vectors down here, which I think could become key targets. But I think there is a trend line that we can potentially get. Might give us something as well. I don't know if I have to put this on the weekly and just make it a bit cleaner. Make it cleaner. Let's just hide some of these, just for now. I don't know if there's. I don't know whether you want to do it through the bodies like that, and then there's a potential, area around here that it could come back to, which let's just say it gradually falls down. You might see it at 55. It sharp drops down. You might see it at 53. We're splitting a hair here. If we have a look at doing it from the wicks, I mean, which one? This one's not going to be particularly good. You could maybe do that and just, that's an outlier, or you could just do it from here and pick up those 4. But either way, we're kind of looking at potential downtrend towards that 52, 50, 55. Now, the other thing to add to that would be, Jared, just having a look across, just take this. And remember, this is the weekly candle, so I'm just being very big picture with it. But again, always want to pick those wicks in. But that level at 55, it's been support and resistance quite a few times over the last, better part of 2 years. So yeah, that's something I'd be having a look at. I mean, the only next thing that I'd probably throw up there, let's just get rid of those so you can see it a bit better. Just be a good old-fashioned, should have left that one on. I'll get rid of these instead. A good old-fashioned fib. I'm going to do it from here because we've had that drop, that reset. So down from here up to there. And we've already lost this. So the 382 at 58, 56 and 54. I mean, the 618 is the one I always look at. That's right on those levels we were talking about, around just under 55 cents. That for me, if you could stick it out and you're looking to try and get a fairly decent entry in, is where I'd be looking. Obviously, I just caveat that with whatever Bitcoin may or may not do. Okay, Alan's put, I'd like to accumulate a 6-figure TAO position, that's BitTens, but I'm in the US. Any suggestions on the safest process to do so, since the 4 listed exchanges in CoinGecko are not available in the US? Has anyone used the new BitTens wallet Chrome extension? Firstly, I feel sorry for you that that is the case, because I didn't realize how bad it was. But if we just go on to CoinMarketCap, same as CoinGecko, the 4 top exchanges, the 4 that, I've only really heard of 3. I'd only really trust using 3 of those, is Gate.io. I try and avoid that at all costs, if I'm honest. Mexi, which I do use, and BitGet, which I have an account with. I don't really use that much, but I've at least heard of it. But the vast majority of the volume is sat on Mexi. And so ideally, that's where you want to go. But as you said, let me just go on page 2. No, I wouldn't use that either. As you said, the United States restricted. Now, I don't know how accurate this list is, but I just typed in available crypto exchanges in the US, and we got, 9? Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken, Bitstamp, eToro, Binance, I'll be Binance US, KuCoin, Bitfly, never heard of, and Uphold. So yeah, none of those really work. And I can only really tell you what I do, Alan. I know in a later question you said you're not on the call for this, so you'll be watching it back. But because I'm doing a bit of Solana airdrop farming at the moment. Some of the sites are restricted territories where I'm based, but because I always use a VPN when I am dealing with cryptocurrencies, I just continue to use my VPN and, you know, just put myself somewhere else, which it does allow it to be, and that works. So that's what I do. I don't have as many restrictions as you do in terms of spot purchases, so I haven't really come into that problem at the moment. But that's kind of where I would be looking. I suppose the issue you've got there is, what do you do when you cash out? And you know, you kind of hope that towards the end a US exchange does list it and then you can cash out. I'm thinking from a tax point of view, if you have to declare all of this and they go, well, how the hell did you get it in the first place? And if they don't look too kindly on you using a VPN to circumnavigate that sort of stuff. Obviously, you could look to mine it. It's not quite as simple as you might think, because I think it's an ASIC miner you would need. So I'd definitely have a look at that if you were even interested in mining. But for me, I use VPNs quite a lot. It's helped me out with the Solana airdrop farming, and that's kind of where I'll leave it at. I suppose the issue you have, if I'm being honest though, is because there was no pre-mine, because it was fair launched, and because of the high level of circulating supply, if you will, that is actually locked up staking, sort of close to 90%. It's going to be very difficult for other exchanges to get a significant amount of TAO, BitTensor, to be able to sort of, you know, provide any decent level of liquidity. And they're going to have to buy it off schmucks like us. So that's going to really drive the price up if they're looking to buy a large amount. So, you know, if you try and wait too long for a United States exchange to list it, the problem you may have is the price is significantly moved up. So, yeah, it's a bit of a tough one, a bit of a balancing act there. If you're happy and content with the VPN options, there's plenty to use. I use Surfshark. I don't have any affiliation with it. It's just simple to use, and I can use it on multiple devices. That's the reason why. But there are plenty out there, and you know, you just go into the Discord, and I'm sure people will be able to tell you which ones they use. In terms of, you asked another question. Alan's put here. So this second one down here, not live tonight. I'm really hoping to lean the community to find the most secure way to acquire. Okay, right. You've then put, has anyone used the BitTensor wallet Chrome extension? So I hadn't until I'd read that. So I'd gone down the good old fashioned route of just going on BitTensor, clicking on wallet, and then downloading a wallet and creating a wallet. And yeah, this is the wallet. Obviously, I've not logged into it, but it's fairly bland. And yeah, but it's a bit cumbersome, and you have to wait for it to load before you can click through the buttons. But I saw that you mentioned that there was a BitTensor wallet from Chrome. So I thought, okay, you know, I'm always a bit nervous about doing this. It's had 900 users, but only 2 ratings. 1 star because it didn't work with Brave. 1 star because I tried multiple times to import or create, and it didn't work. Not great. And then it had official wallet. Please be careful. So it had a 5 star then. So nothing was particularly helpful. I imagine this is relatively new, as the actually it's updated in 20th of November, so it's not that new. But I did download it, and I have put a tiny amount on there just for tonight's call, so I can kind of run you through it all. So I haven't had time to check the veracity of this. I haven't had time to do any due diligence to see if this is particularly scammy or anything like that. So, you know, please, just if you're thinking of using this and you have a decent sized bag of BitTensor, just be careful. I mean, both of them are web wallets. You can't at the moment protect it with a hardware wallet, which is very difficult and annoying. So you may want to spread it across multiple wallets and multiple addresses. That might be a way to sort of manage that risk. But yeah, just take all of those kind of security concerns in mind when doing this. But anyway, I downloaded it and then I pinned it up here, and you can click on it. It opens up. It feels pretty slick. As I said, I just moved just over 1 into that. I mean, it's easy to copy your address, easy to send and receive, which I've done. Stake, which we'll go through in a moment. And then if you hit forget, I thought that was going to log me out, but it actually just sort of like wipes your wallet. And so just make sure you have a copy of your seed phrase. When you need to re-import it, you have to go through the whole process again. You can have multiple accounts on here if you want to, and the settings is just light or dark mode. So there's nothing really to it. I Adam's put, according to their Discord, they have a migration to the extension. You have to migrate to the extension by the 16th of the 1st. Okay, looks like everyone's going to have to move over here. I was going to say, if this is legit, I find this wallet much easier to use than the previous one. In terms of staking, very simple. So you just hit the stake button. Then you can either, if you remember your delegator's address, you can do it one of two ways. If you don't, you can go on to taostats.io, click on the validators and the verified validators, which is all in the video that Simon did. And then Simon's using BitTens Guru podcast. So you can just click on that, copy it, go back to your wallet. It's live here. I can just drop it in. There we go. All the details come up. Or if I didn't know that, instead of actually going to that website, you can actually just click select delegator and they're all linked here. And I did check at least BitTens Gurus is correct. So you can just click on that, put the details in, hit continue. You notice how you didn't have to wait this time. Just moves. You just put in the amount you want to put in. So let's just do 1.3, hit stake, put my password in. If this is going to show it, thankfully. And hit continue. And then it's transmitting. Estimated time 45 seconds. So it's pretty simple doing it that way. If you don't want to do it that way and you want to just go down the old-fashioned way, just remember there's a video on Discord in the general chit-chat section. It's on Vimeo as well. You can just have a look at how you stake it across there. It's like an 8-minute video. Very simple. Okay. Rich has put, can you go through the best place way to stake Tau? And oh, there you go. I've just done that for you. So the video through Discord is the way we're doing it at the moment. That's the web wallet through the exchange. Obviously, I've just downloaded the Chrome extension. I will do a bit more due diligence on that, but if it all pads out, if that's what Discord is saying, then that's what I'm going to move the rest of mine over to there. And then you've put also for DOT, and then you put EG for DOT. Is via Trezor or Ledger better, and how to stake via the cold wallet then? All right, so just straight off the bat, you cannot even hold Polkadot on your Trezor. Never mind stake it. So you aren't able to do that. And there's a very simple way. If you do own a Trezor and you don't know how to see what tokens you can go on there, you just go onto the website, onto Trezor, and then you click on coins up at the top. And then it will just list every token that is supported. Now it'll list every token. And as you'll see, like Solana is listed, but you can't send, receive, you can't buy, sell, and there is no supported wallet. Same with Polkadot. But you can kind of go through and it'll tell you where they are. A lot of them are either the Trezor suite, so actually directly on the Trezor, or directly in inverted commas, MetaMask or MyCrypto or Rabby, My Ethereum wallet, depending on what kind of token it is. But if we have a look, there's a search engine if you want to search through. So let's just do Cas. So Casper appears, but again, it's not a supported device. You can't do it on there. So it may be on here, but it's not going to be there. And just because it's listed on here doesn't mean it might be on here anytime soon. Because as you can see, Polkadot is a token that's been around for a lot longer than Cas, and it still doesn't have its listing. So have a look at Tau. And again, BitTensor's on here, but you can't protect it that way. So going back to your question about hardware wallets, if you wanted to protect your Polkadot via a hardware wallet, you are going to have to use the Ledger. Maybe there's other ones available, but it's the Ledger that you're going to do. And we kind of briefly went through that a little bit last week in how to stake it via the Ledger. So I won't go through it again, but just bear in mind what came out earlier on this week. So there was a Ledger vulnerability that put the entire dAppt ecosystem at risk. And I got, because I was doing these Solana air farms, I got a couple of notifications just pop up on my phone and on my PC. Basically, it's just saying do not connect different types of wallets to the ecosystem because there is a vulnerability at the moment, and alleged that vulnerability has potentially come from Ledger. And Ledger's been, it's been having a tough year really. It brought out that sort of recoverable custodian process, which everyone was very nervous about. Got a lot of backlog on that. Backlog. God, I lost train of thought now. Anyway, a lot of negative press on that one. Just because people thought, well, if you're building a a route into it through the back door, then that could be vulnerable. And then we see things like this. So, you know, I own a ledger. I just don't use it. I don't like, it's quite cumbersome for me and my fat thumbs, but it's also just having too many issues. For this to be a hardware wallet, there just seems to be too many vulnerabilities. And at some stage, I just feel like I'm going to get caught out. I'm not saying that Trezor is particularly safe. I also do own the Tangent wallet, which I've got in my wallet here. They're the cards a few of us in the group have used. They're good. That's why I store my Casper and my Tau on when I'm staking it. Looks like that. You get a few of those. I found those really easy to use. But yeah, so I'm not really doing the Ledger, but you can stake your Polkadot directly through Ledger. So if you are happy to take that risk, but you want your staked Polkadot a little bit more secure, then this is definitely the way to do it. What I do is I use the Fearless wallet. Now this is a mobile wallet. There is a browser extension you can use as well, but neither of them are particularly protected, so there is an inherent risk with those. So, but I can then stake directly through this. There's other ones as well, like Nova, which you can use a Nova wallet. I just download these onto your phones. I can't really show you because I have to hold my phone up to the screen. You download them. It's really simple. Just if you're going to do it, you send your Polkadot or whatever you want to do, send it to there. There's a little button on the bottom. Just click on that for staking. Tell it how much you want to stake. You send it across. Just make sure you leave a small amount of Polkadot in your wallet. I think the minimum is 250 dot. So if you don't have that, you can't stake it. Now you might be able to stake it directly through polkadot.js. But this is just such a bad UI. I just don't use it. Matter of fact, this is all changed. What do I want to go into? Let's just click on this and see. Yep, this is what it looks like. And it's a really convoluted way. If you're going to do this, then you're going to have to go and watch a YouTube video on how you do it. 'Cause you've got to send your account, sort of the network, send it across to this. Then you got to move across and stake it. It's very difficult, and it's just not a user-friendly AI. And also, it's just as unprotected as the others. So I just go with that one. All of these are 28-day lockup periods, though, just to bear that in mind. So I hope that helped. Rich, Alan's already talked about that one, and then he's put, "What do you make of machine learning, Lorentzian classification indicator?" I've been watching it all week on BTC and a few other crypto pairs. I have actually never heard of it, Alan. So I will write that down on the old scratch pad to take a look at. I can't comment on it. Hopefully I'll be able to find it, but I might reach out to you. And just ask you how to find it, and then I can take a look at it. But yeah, I will try. Let's have a look. There's a couple of comments just come up. So Adam talked about moving across to the Discord, moving across, Tau across to the Chrome extension by the 16th of January. I wonder what happens when migrating to the extension if you're staked already. I think you'd have to unstake it and then send it to your new wallet and then restake it. I imagine what will happen if you don't, you'll probably it will stay in that wallet. It just probably won't accrue any rewards. So you just have to move it, and then you run the risk of them just getting rid of it, and then you just have to go through like a really laborious process to actually recover it. Tim's put, "I've just watched a video on staking DOT via Bifrost. That looks interesting." Yeah, I've seen that that's an opportunity. I presume it'd be like BDOT or something like that. So you stake it there, you provide the liquidity to Bifrost, which is obviously good for them because they're up and coming, and then you can use your BDOT however you want. But I have not looked at the video. I'll be honest, I'm just going to keep mine where it is at the moment. But yeah, that's definitely another option. Perhaps in Discord, Tim, you can just pin the video so people can have a look at it. I think that's it for the questions. So we can get on to a little bit of price action for the last 20 minutes or so. Just set up new Tau extension with your original seed phrase. Not need to move a state. Okay, there you go. So when you go to set up, you're right, you can import your seed phrase across. So yeah, you're absolutely right there. I obviously didn't really want to show you guys how much Tau I had, which is why I set up a new one and set a dummy across. But yeah, there we go. Let's move that down. Let's talk about BTC then. Let's talk about price. what's been happening, because put it on the weekly. For 8 weeks, we've been begging for that red candle. Yesterday, Sunday, we finally got it. Thanks to a couple of days of moving down Friday and Saturday. But yeah, we finally got that red candle. And, now I'll move it back to the daily. But you can see during that time, it hit this line we've been following. And then yesterday, in the drop before it bounced, it hit it perfectly before recovering. So again, this trend line we've been talking about for 9-10 months is showing its strength still, because that's what it reacted off before coming through. This is gone. It should be deleted. That's all done with. Obviously didn't hit save last time I did this. So these boxes are just the high block liquidation areas, which we can have a look at a little bit later on. But then today was a bit of a funny one as well, because we had a bit of a move down, then a move back up, and then we moved back down. And, this is just classic opportunism for the likes of the market makers that just sort of trap longs and shorts either side of it and just take advantage of those. But on the daily, what we're starting to see, we'll move to a higher time frame in a moment, is that we are starting to see that it's still bunching. So we're still in some sort of range. Let's get a cleaner chart open. Let's go on to the daily. I think we're kind of seeing, I don't know, you can either do it with the bodies, a bit like this. I'll zoom in. So body to body, we've got this, which is kind of a flat bottomed compression, which, some people, would say, oh, there's maybe a bit of an angle to that. So maybe it's not a flat bottom, but it kind of looks like a flat bottom, which we could then argue, the next couple of days might fill that, and then we might see that move down. Let's see if we can find any other sort of trend lines within this. We got this. It's just nipped it yesterday in recovering back up, but that one, going all the way back to middle of October, we've seen it, and it's kind of bouncing off that. So we're at the apex of this one. Now this one is more of a symmetrical, and you would argue over the full length of this. Sadly, given us mixing views here, you've probably got 51% to the upside, 49 down. Now they are generally, that is the worst 4 I've ever drawn. That's better. Yeah, so we've got that, which potentially looks at. Now, let's get rid of those. Cheers, Tim, for sharing. Thank you very much. That's just the video he's talking about with Polkadot on Bifrost. So yeah, we've got that mixed view there. That the reason I say it's a 51% chance, it's a symmetrical compression, but the overall trend from the middle of October is upwards, so that's why it gives it that advantage to potentially move up. What we can also have a look at. Let's just get rid of we'll get rid of them all. We don't necessarily need them. I think the point here is whatever is happening, it is starting to bunch. We've had these extended moves over, but now we're bunching. We're kind of bunching like we did here. And, everyone kind of thought this was going to roll over, me included, but actually it proved us wrong and went up to the upside. Problem is, we just don't know how long this is going to bunch necessarily for. But I would be looking. It doesn't matter. I'm not really too worried about breaking it down. It falls down. This is the trend line I'm wanting to watch. Does it break this? If it breaks this and stays above it, sticks a landing, starts going up, and we don't see these wicks below it, then it's building the support. Off we go. I think this is going to be a repeat of what we saw at the end of November. But at the moment, if it can't, and we've not even had a look at EMAs and everything else at the moment, then actually this looks like we're just filling into this gap down here, and then ultimately what we're going to see is likely a retest, and we'll have a look at levels that we can retest. But ultimately, I'm looking at that level. We're going to draw these a bit better later on. You'll see them a bit better later on that level, and then maybe down at that level. So we're now talking, I don't know, sort of 31,000. I've drawn it at 30. Sort of 35 to 38,000, just where it took that breather mid-November. Sorry, I'm trying to catch its breath before I move up. But let's have a look at this chart as well. So this is something that we've been looking at since October. And there's a couple of things on here for those that have not seen it for the first time, although where have you been? We've got price action. We drew these trend lines in that support box last week, and then we've got the RSI and the stochastic RSI. And what we were looking at is when we first started, they were trying to break through 80 on the stochastic RSI, which typically it's like, it's running out of bullish momentum. It's overbought momentum, whatever term you want to use. And then on 70, it is overbought. And what we've finally seen now that we've actually had a red weekly candle close is we've actually now started to see this pull back. And yeah, we've still got this week, still got 5 days to go. So yeah, it's a little bit of an uptake, but we always look at where it closed. And we're kind of getting back to the 70. And that's an important level, because if you have a look, let's try and blow this up, shall we? The 70. So back in April, then back in November in 21, we go back to September in 20. You know, it's not a surefire thing. It's just going to fall through and go, because we've seen that actually this 70 has acted as support and resistance in the past. But to be honest, what we're looking for now, we're going to tie it in with the what have I done? What have I done? Let's get rid of that. Got to tie into the stochastic RSI. Is we want to see this break. Well, we don't want to. Depends which side you're on. If you wanted to get more Bitcoin, you want to see this break at 70, and you want to see the stochastic RSI. It's already done the cross, so the blue is now below the orange. That's what we want to see. The fast line now below the orange, but we need that to break 80 as well, because as we've seen even earlier this year, it's come back to 80 and then found some momentum again. So that's what we want to avoid if we want to see lower prices. But we want to see this break, and that will at some stage, likely, not guaranteed, because I'm going to show you some bearish diversions and bullish diversions later on, moving down towards more neutral positions in terms of its buying power, whether it's overbought or oversold, but starting to get that negative momentum into the market with the fact that Bitcoin is in that sort of compression and maybe breaking down to the south. We could certainly see that going in that direction. Now, I obviously watch a lot of YouTube videos which you guys may not watch, and so I try and bring you some of the sort of important stuff, or at least from a macro point of view, things that you can look at just to try and give you an idea. And one of the ones that I was watching today was from Crypto Crew University, which uses this kind of stuff. And they were talking about what's happened in the past when Bitcoin has been rejected at the level it just got rejected at, about 84. It's actually kind of this box, because, he uses a different chart to me, and, these nuances just do pay. And it has had those experiences before, so we can go all the way back and kind of have a look. So let me just assure you that on his chart, this one, although it's 81 on mine, it did get up to 84. So what did we have? So it got to the 84 level. It's on the weekly, remember, and it's pulled back. And what does it do? It pulls back to the level it was previously at. So it refreshes. It doesn't go all the way back down to oversold, because on the weekly, that's going to take a long time for that to happen. But on this move up, this move up here, rejection here, we see the pullback on the RSI, we see a pullback on the stochastic RSI, and price action. Now, there's different time frames it happens when we see this, but it does pull back sort of where the previous sort of price action was building around. So that was in 2012, same in 2016. So we get up to this level, to this level here. We have the rejection, we see the RSI and the stochastic RSI come back down, and then over the next couple of months, price goes all the way back down to where? To where we were building up the price just prior to that. So we've seen that on 2 occasions. Now, I'll come back to 2020 in a moment, but what we're seeing now, potentially, as I said, we've got to wait to see whether or not it breaks the 70. But if it does break the 70, if we do break the 80, maybe what we might actually now see is price action come back to where it was previously building. Well, where was it previously building? Well, for me, it's been previously building in and around this 30 and a half, 31,000. Probably better to do it as a rectangle, isn't it? So that level. And so maybe that's where we might see it go. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. One occasion it has happened overnight. The other time it took a couple of weeks, or 8 weeks, I think. But we haven't got the confirmation yet. So this isn't the case of, right, everybody run to your Trezor and sell your Bitcoin, because on this chart, because we're on the weekly, we lag. We have to wait for that data. We've got 5 days. It's quite easy now bounce and come back up. But let's look at the occasions that it has done that, because it has, we've seen here. But generally, every time we get up into this zone, we see that rejection, price correlates. Get back up again, see the rejection, price correlates. Get back up to that zone again, rejection, price correlates. Get back up to that zone again, rejection, price correlates. Get up to the zone again, rejection, price correlates, bear market. See the real big correction. So what's the problem with this? So I've shown you 2 instances in where that has worked. There is an outlier. And that's what happened in 2020, because we got up to it in 2020, but we didn't really get a rejection back to its previous level. I would say the previous base level for this would have been 11, 12,000, this sort of level. But we never got that correction back to here. Why? I don't know. Money printers were massively turned on because we were coming out of COVID. That could definitely potentially be there. We had everybody staying at home, a lot of charts, people looking at the charts, people, Wall Street bets and all that kind of stuff. Maybe that also helped move it. But the reality is, whatever the reason, in 2020, despite hitting that level, we didn't pull back. And so there is an outlier, there is an abnormally within this. So again, let's not get our Trezors out. Let's not be selling Bitcoin, because we don't know where we're going. What was even more interesting with this, and we talked about this extensively 2022 and the beginning part of 2023, was what we then went through was a bearish divergence, because we had the RSI falling, but price just climbing. And, everybody was calling for 100K Bitcoin, head in the sand. We don't care about the bearish divergence on the weekly, an incredibly strong signal. And we just ignored it. And then what happened? Well, it broke. And we had a huge drop from 60,000 down to 34, 31, 30, which is exactly the level we're potentially talking about here now. So, we've been watching these 3 indicators for a while now. We're potentially starting to see where this could go. And we potentially have some clues as to where we might get to. And so for me, I think there's an opportunity there to, just sit on my hands, wait for any form of confirmation, and then if it comes, look to see what I want to do. Now, if Bitcoin's going to go down to those levels as we talked about, we're probably going to see some serious falling in the majority of altcoins. And so there, we've got to consider what we'd want to do with those. Now, the vast majority of the altcoins that I have are staked, and Dot being a prime example, it's quite a long unstaking process. My average buy for Polkadot at the moment, because I've now started a way of working my stake rewards in, is about $4.20. So, even if it went below that, I can live with it. I'm just going to for that one, I'm just going to take my time with it. Some of the others, I'm not. I've already mentioned that I sold some of my Dynex. I got in at, my last batch was at like 92. And I think I sold it at 70, maybe just a little bit low. So definitely took a hit there. Will I sell my Tau? I seen someone asking the question there. We'll get onto the price of Tau a little bit later on, but no. So I did sidestep Tau when it's back at 335, and then I got back in. The bottom price I got back in was 285 at the moment. So I'm kind of just sitting on those at the moment. But no, I don't think so. I think things like using my Dynex bag to just, purchase some more should we get lower is probably the way I'll go with that. And then if I talk about it, I will talk about when we go into some of our altcoins, but I just want to give you an example of, DCAing. It really does work, particularly if a token hasn't moved yet. And we'll show some examples of how that can happen a little bit later on. But one of the things that I'm working on, I said I've got quite a few videos coming out next week and then the week after, just while I won't be around. I'm just sort of trying to do my year view. And I mentioned this last week, but let's just take time to actually reflect how far we've come over the last 12 months. You think about 19th of December. Here we go. Find that date. Okay, it's on the 3-day chart. So it's here. Pretty much that line there. I'm going to zoom in so we can see it a bit better. This is the 18th. we were at 16,000. You know, we were just coming off the back of FTX, and it was a pretty sorry state of affairs. I think most of us were thinking we were going to go lower. How far down we didn't really know. But yeah, we had just had the third of the big drops, you know, after Terra, after Celsius, and then FTX. What more could happen? But actually, you only fast forward a couple of days later, and, you know, from the beginning of the year, we never revisited sub 16K. You know, it has been only up since then. And actually, it's been quite an incredible year. Altcoins got battered to start off with, but recently they have really jumped as well and really started to move. And some of them who didn't struggle as badly this year have then seen some actual gains over the years that surpass Bitcoin. But Bitcoin's gone from 16,000 to the height at the moment of 44,000. Yeah, give or take some spikes, I get it. But, you know, somewhere in the region of $28,000 increase. So, you know, over 150% increase in an asset which at the beginning of the year everybody was writing off. A couple of times during the year everybody was writing off, and it really only feels like since mid-September we've got that kind of mentality that actually we're back. And I think that kind of just says to me that even if we do get whatever pullback we're going to get, the power of Bitcoin, with the real power of Bitcoin, the real power of cryptocurrency from the bull season, you know, we haven't experienced yet, and that's going to move in, and that's going to make any doubt or concerns you have about not sidestepping right now because you're getting lower. Say you don't sidestep and it does go from 42 to 35 or whatever, you're only going to be kicking yourself for a number of months, and then it will go. And I mentioned earlier that 2 years pretty much now I've been DCAing in every month, and I'll have to go on, but I can't think of a Bitcoin that's underwater at the moment. And bearing in mind that some of these Bitcoins I was buying, you know, beginning of 2022, I think it can't be 22 months because we all sidestepped at around about 47, didn't we? So I don't know when it was, but it's probably May or July I got in. Maybe the one that I bought beginning of this month is probably underwater, but every other one, and sometimes that's felt silly. You know, the ones that I bought in May back here didn't feel great down here, but, you know, we just buy and we just keep going. And even the ones that ended up buying at 30,000 seem like a good idea at the moment. So just try and bear that one in mind going forward. I've started to try and pull together. This is just some sort of like a table so I can do my video for the end of year review. But again, yeah, some real strength that we've seen. A lot of green months. We don't know what December is at the moment. Likely to be a green month, but 8 at the moment, green months. Some real good moves. Some of the news events, you know, we've potentially forgotten about. The SEC starting their crackdowns in February. The banking crisis in March. Meme coin season across April and May, and then BlackRock announcing that they were going to be the saviors of Bitcoin, especially after the SEC had just gone so heavily against Coinbase and Binance yet again in June. And then we had that XRP win in July, which seems like a lifetime ago. But yeah, there we were. And then we've had the last few months, unfortunately, being dominated by either SBF or ETFs. There's obviously some gaps that I'll fill those in. But just looking at some of these figures, it is impressive to just see what we've done. So, you know, maybe it's just a macro review there that we don't have to be beating ourselves up. I think we've done all right. Okay, let's have a look at Bitcoin in the smaller time frame, and then we'll have a look at some of the other ones as well. And I think if we look at Ethereum first, because we kind of talked about it. So Ethereum's had that steady move up. I talked about it earlier. It's had that pullback to where we were beginning of November. And we've already started to make that move back to the 50 EMA because, again, we've not touched the 50 EMA since the middle of October. There's a long time to be away from it. And we are starting to make that descent back down. That's where I think we'll at least get to, that 2,000 level. Now, everything will rely on what happens at the 50, because if we break it, typically what happens is we lose it, and we're going to need to be caught or rescued by the 200 or the 800, and they are a lot further down. But if we manage to hold it, and I mean hold it within the cloud, not just the line, then yeah, we can hopefully build some support around that 2,000 level and then look to make a move. But just going back to Bitcoin, you know, we're not near that 50 yet. We haven't actually even lost the we lost the 10 and we recovered on the 20, which is the red line. And yeah, that's done quite well. We bounced through. Now today's candle's a bit of an odd one. It's going to pretty much almost be a spinning top candle, an indecision candle, if you will. But yeah, we're still above that. And that to me just says that, the longer we stay away from this, yes, it's going to catch up, but I feel that we are going to correct to it. And if we can't catch it when we do correct, we'll stay under for longer. So yeah, we are, we're over 2 months since we left it. It was the 16th of October to the 19th of December now. So that definitely needs, a retest. And even that, it's taken us effectively to the top, 38,000 if we just lose it a little bit. If we get to the bottom of this cloud, by the time it gets up there, 37,000. So that's, would be a nice healthy pullback to this. It may feel painful because it's $5,000 away from where we are at the moment, but it would be a healthy pullback. I could live with that. If we never got lower than that, I think that would be a healthy enough pullback for me to be satisfied that, it's had at least a healthy correction. Do I want more? Yeah, of course I do. I got a little bit on the sideline. Might not all go into Bitcoin, but I certainly would be looking at it. And we talk about that 31 level, and then we start to tie in some of the other things that we regularly use, whether it be unclaimed vectors. So the 50% line on this vector, which is just sitting, it just wants to be taken, is around about 31,000. The 200 and the 800 are either just at the level or will be encroaching towards it, depending on how long we get there. All that price action we talked about. We talked about EMAs beforehand as well. So EMA Fibonacci's as well. And, a lot of things are tying in with that 31 level for me. Do I think it's difficult, isn't it? I don't want to be the one that says, do I think, it won't go below 31,000. Of course it could go below 31,000, but a lot of things are suggesting that 31,000 is going to be a very strong level. If it gets broken, then it's going to take a big effect to bring it back above. I think that's the key point there. If 31 gets broken. Now, if we get to 31, I'm going to be putting the majority of what I have left on the sideline back in. And if it goes lower, so be it. But I think that's a good level to really aim for quite a lot of it. I'm going to see if we get down to 37, 38 and it doesn't really do much, I may have to revisit how I'm going to have a look at moving some of these other ones in. But there's plenty of tokens that I'm looking at now where I actually want to have a bigger allocation. And there's other tokens I'm looking at getting rid of. And so, maybe there's an ideal opportunity to rebalance my portfolio a little bit. I just need to do some thinking on that one. But let's have a look at some of the other ones. So someone asked for Tau, which I have talked about before. But for me, Tau's had a huge rise, meteoric, like a lot of other altcoins. But this has gone from 50, pretty much, middle of October, 700%. But at its current level, oops, it moved all the way down, 550%. So incredibly strong run up there. But much like what I talked about with Casper earlier, what we have seen is that it's lost the 10, it's lost the 20. I know Casper had lost the 50, but at the moment it's lost both of those and it needs to recover those. Otherwise it's going to start to drift back down. What it has done, to be fair to it, that 280 level has seen it take out this price up here. So that seemed like a sensible level in which it could bounce. But I actually have some more buys in at around about 250 down to 230, which just taking where the 50 is and this level of activity around here. I think correction to the 50 EMA needs to happen. It will happen. I guarantee it. It will happen. Whether or not the 50 catches up with price or it's going to dump back down, it will happen. But you can already see that the 50 is not rising parabolically anymore. It's starting to curve off. And so we may only see the 50 around here. So that still sees some sort of move there. And it will get there, I promise you. So that's kind of where I'm looking to target. I would like to increase my allocation in Tau. I've really kind of bought into what it can do. I don't really understand a lot of the tech behind it, but I accept I never will. Now I'm just looking at what potential it potentially has. And yeah, a lot of the things that I like in a lot of other tokens like Render and everything else, it does this and more. So why would I not be excited about that? Obviously, I do a fib on everything, so I'll just throw a fib up, see if that ties in with anything as we go up here. So we've got the 236. I mean, this is how extended it is. Look, the 618, the one that I love the most, is actually all the way down at 100. I mean, if it got to 100, yeah, I'd be a bit upset with how underwater I was, but an ideal level. But those here, even 166 at the 382, 500 seems to tie in quite nicely with at least a bit of price action there. But the 236 at 230, that's kind of where I'm basing the sort of like some of the bottom end of my buy orders, and that's what I'm looking at. We had a quick look at CAS. I do think CAS is potentially still got further falling. So this may be a precursor as to what Tau is going to look like. I'm not saying it's because they're linked, but just naturally how this one has moved. Now this fib has been here since we were at 5 cents, and I've just not bothered changing because it's worked quite nicely. But yeah, that $9. So I got out. I didn't do that kerfuffle. Some time they were in and out. I just got out. And it was quite nice because obviously I had such a low average buy that I was quite happily in profit. If I couldn't make it back in, I'd reallocate. I got back in at 9. I thought it was 9.1, but this only gets a 9.5. It must have been 9.6. I'm still in at the moment. I've got levels of buy all the way down. I've actually got some down at 5, a bit of a stink bid in case it ever retests that support. But we shall wait and see on that one. I just wanted to talk about DCAing over a longer term. We might touch a couple more price actions, then we'll move on. I'm an expert. Harry, you ever considered sidestepping Tau? Are you happy to stay in now? I'm happy at the moment, and I just did the price predictions, so hopefully that helps. So I want to have a look at, I wonder if I can overlay these. Let's get, let's go back to this one. I want to talk about Injective, and because Injective has done what I hope most altcoins are going to do. What do I mean by that? Get rid of these indicators. We don't necessarily need them for what we're going to talk about. Sold on the weekly. So Injective's been around a while. It's not a new token. It's already had a previous bull market. Let's just put it on the linear chart, just so we can kind of really appreciate what it has done. So, yeah, early 2020 or late 2020, it came out. It had a good run in the bull market, and then it fell away like every other coin did, and it really shut the bed. But it kept on building, kept on, sort of working behind the scenes on what it was going to do. And then we've seen its meteoric rise, and it's absolutely surpassed its all-time high. Its previous all-time high was $25. And the lows we saw it at was, $1. Right the way down to where it started. So, from 25 down to $1, 90-odd% correction. A number very familiar with a lot of altcoins during this bear market. And yet it's risen. It's risen very well. We're now at $36.5 because, of what it is offering, because of what it can provide. Yes, okay. I'm sure things like the airdrops are definitely helping provide it. But why am I talking about it? Because if any of you were real believers in this and you've been around, maybe you had some in this cycle here, maybe you held on to it, but you might have taken that opportunity to just DCA in, even DCAing in throughout this year, when it's sub $5. You don't know when it's going to explode, but when it does, you're already in that position. You don't feel like you're having to chase it anymore because you missed it. Why do I mention that? Because there's still so many that haven't done that. Now, yeah, granted, they're ones that I'm holding on to, but DOT, prime example. DOT, for me, I know there's definitely some haters of DOT out there. Absolutely fine. But it's had its huge correction. It's had a meteoric correction as well, 90-odd% after making its all-time highs in 2021. It's completely revamping how it's going to go. And there's potential here. This still feels like DCA territory. Matter of fact, let's just go back in terms of, this is like where this is down here. DOT might have had a move up, but it hasn't had its meteoric move. But I do believe in the token. I do believe in the work they're doing. I do believe that it has a very strong future in cryptocurrency going forward. So I think that will reflect in the price. And I'm not saying it's going to do an inject and do a 37x from its current position. But what I'm just trying to get at is, DCAing in when you're down at these levels, doesn't matter if it was at $3, whether it was at $7, whether it was at $5. We haven't had the run yet. And I can say that on a lot of them, whether it be Rose, similar. I've been buying that all this year. Hasn't had the run yet, although it probably needs a correction after all of those green candles. Near, very similar. Another great project. It's got a lot of future towards it. Been DCAing into this the entire year. got a nice healthy bag of that, but it hasn't had its run yet. We've got that run to go. And so if you're on the sidelines, you're not in and you're worried about it, yes, we might get a big correction coming. But a lot of these tokens, and we've not even looked at it from a BTC value yet, but a lot of these tokens have still got their run to go. Now, of course, we've already shown you with XRP, there's no guarantee you're going to remake all-time high. All you can rely on is, has the project that you've been working with, have they continued to develop? Have they continued to deliver? Do they still have a support group, as in, do they still have moon boys within it that can help drive that price forward? And if those are the things, if those are all ticks, then there's a very good chance that they are going to at least recapture the vast majority of that or previous all-time high. I would say that they also need to actually do something. It needs to have a use case. You can't, be entering into a layer one market if you're not a very good layer one. I mean, ETH is so lucky that it has first mover advantage because it isn't a good layer one. Yes, it can build dApps up it, of course it can. But things like gas fees, scalability, even the speed, it's not as good as a lot of its rivals. So yeah, it's got to bear that in mind. And yeah, I think that's probably where I want to. Colts for InGen has been playing with all the emotions lately. It has. I mean, if you imagine you held on to InGen and you'd bought it in sub $10, and the move it's had over the last couple of weeks, that is going to test your greed anchors. When do you leave? When do you get out of that? Because if you are someone where it's 16x, 10x already, and you haven't taken some money off the table, I don't think you're going to make it in this market. I honestly don't. If you can't take at least some money off the table after a token you've been holding on to is 10x, why would you take money off the table when it's 50x? You won't. You wouldn't have that mentality. You'll just think, oh, I'll wait till 100x. So yeah, hopefully. I like Inject, but it's moved. I mean, it's ludicrous. Like when you look at it on the weekly, to think I'll get into this now. That just, it to me feels like it needs to come down to $18. Whether or not it will is another thing, but that's what it feels like it needs to do. I think that's probably a good place to leave it for now, unless anyone has anything else to go through. Just summarizing, Bitcoin and where I think the price is going to go. I think we've got that coiling at the moment. It has had that strong rejection. I think there's a lot of indicators are potentially saying that we lose some of these support levels. We've got that correction that we've been asking for. Of course, there's a lot of fundamentals around there. The ETF being the biggest one that is, and that could absolutely throw a spanner in the works of all TA. So don't bury your head in the sand over Christmas. That's all I'd suggest. Just pick up your phone and have a look every so often. Don't have to be every 5 minutes. How price is doing, and yeah, we can go from there. In terms of schedules over the next week or so, there's no live next week because it's Boxing Day, and I'll either be hungover or just so stuffed full of turkey that I can't be bothered to get on screen. There's going to be 3 research videos that drop next week. So we have got, bring up the document. Let's have a look. We have got research tokens. Injective, that's coming out. Alpha Zero and it's Auto no less. That's spelled wrong. So that's the other one. This last one I actually really like. Also last week, someone brought it to my attention last week. I think it was Greg. Apologies for not remembering who it was. I will credit you in the video. So those 3 videos, I've just realized I'm not sharing my screen. Doesn't matter. Those 3 videos are coming out next week. So that'll probably be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, one each day, because you really are bored talking to your family over the Christmas period. We will have a genuine live again on the 2nd of January, which is a Tuesday night. And I will pre-record the 2023 year in review. So that will just drop sometime in the first week in January. I just want to see what the price is on the 31st of December. But yeah, other than that, guys, thanks for joining us tonight. Hope you have a great evening. Oh, actually, Adam just put, do you not think there's a poor small double bottom on the Bitcoin daily? Come on, I don't want to ignore someone's putting a comment in there. So Screen on. One more time. I'm calamitous here. Anyway, that's what I was drawing. So I'm going to end it before I do another stupid one. I did hit the wrong button, Tim. Hopefully I've corrected that. Right, guys, have a good Christmas, a good New Year. Check out the videos when they drop. They'll drop on here as well. And other than that, yeah, I will speak to you all soon. I'll see you in 2024. But I'm sure I'll chat to you in Discord before then. Enjoy the rest of your evening and have a good night. Cheers now.